And turning now to Iowa, where former President Trump is expected to visit tonight. But his legal troubles are becoming a big topic on the campaign trail. Our Ed O'Keefe spoke about this in a one-on-one conversation with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Good morning. In our interview, Governor DeSantis suggested that the legal issues facing former President Trump are simply a distraction for voters. Amid signs of trouble for the DeSantis campaign, the governor now insists his team is in good shape, with plans to continue meeting with people in early voting states.
Former President Donald Trump's double-digit lead isn't stopping his two closest opponents.
I believe America can do for anyone what she's done for me.
We're not getting a mulligan on 2024.
Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott know Trump's legal woes hang over the race, but neither directly attacks him.
What should Republican caucus goers here in Iowa, Republican primary voters across the country make of what's going on?
What we all should be very concerned about is the weaponization of the Department of Justice. We should be very careful on how we use immense power against political opponents.
At the end of the day, the election's got to be about the future.
Among Iowa Republicans, polls show DeSantis holding in second place, with Scott now in third. But DeSantis had to trim back his campaign staff this week and is going for smaller, more direct outreach to caucus goers who demand direct face time. It comes as he faces backlash for Florida's new Black History curriculum standards. The new guidelines say Florida middle schoolers should be taught about the harsh conditions enslaved people endured, and about how slaves developed skills which, in some instances, could be applied for their personal benefit. For the first time, Scott, the only black Republican senator, weighed in.
What slavery was really about separating families, about mutilating humans, and even raping their wives. It was devastating. So I would hope that every person in our country, and certainly running for president, would appreciate that.
Vice President Harris and Trump supporter Florida Republican Congressman Byron Donalds have also criticized the standards. In an interview with CBS News Thursday, DeSantis responded to the VP's criticisms.
We had really serious scholars, African-American, many of them, put out a huge compendium about all these things, and she tried to demagogue it, saying somehow that was like justifying slavery, which was totally the opposite.
Part of the reason we're here in Iowa tonight, the largest gathering to date of most of the Republican presidential field, including the frontrunner, former President Trump. These guys will be crossing paths with each other now for the first time, all of them trying to meet with as many Iowa Republican voters as possible. But also in the Hawkeye state today, in what you might call trolling or bracketing, Vice President Harris set to be here as well. The White House says she plans to put focus on Iowa's, quote, extreme abortion ban. Anne-Marie?
Okay, Ed, thank you. CBS News Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett is joining us now with more on the impact of the new charges that Donald Trump is facing. But actually, to tell you the truth, I want to get to that, Major, but I first want to ask you about the Lincoln dinner that's happening tonight. You know, Ed O'Keefe talked about the fact that you're going to have a lot of these contenders all in the same place, including Donald Trump, which I don't think that's happened. Donald Trump will be speaking. I believe Ron DeSantis will be speaking.
Yes.
This is an opportunity for Republican voters to kind of see them all on the stage together, even if they're not debating.
Right, Anne-Marie, good morning to you. Lots of political reporters can get really geeked up about events that are not in the main all that important. Tonight is important. Tonight is very important in the echo chamber around the Iowa caucuses. I know it's the summertime. I know we're months and months away. But this event tonight will be remembered for weeks and possibly months thereafter. Why? Because it is unusual for the reason you just outlined. This is the first time that Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis and others, but those are the two who are really trying to fight it out in Iowa, will be on the same stage on the same night, making their very best appeals to Iowa caucus voters and the state media and the national media that will be covering not only the words, the atmospherics, the tempo, the temperament of the supporters, the applause, everything around that will be remembered for weeks, if not months, after tonight's event. So it is a very big deal. And one of the backdrops of this is that Iowa has a very Republican governor who is very popular, Kim Reynolds. She's Republican. She's not very Republican. She's just very popular. And former President Trump has criticized her not once but twice for not yet endorsing him in the Iowa caucuses. And Kim Reynolds has said, I'm going to remain neutral and let the caucus goers decide. Well, that's created an opening for some Republicans to say, hey, what are you doing? What are you kicking this Republican governor in Iowa who's doing what everyone would typically do? Are you that egotistical, former President Trump? We'll see how much that plays tonight. That could be as much of an opening as this most recent round of indictments, which I know you want to get to, Anne-Marie. But tonight, for all the reasons I've outlined, is a very big deal in the Iowa caucuses.
So, yeah, let's talk about, this most recent, a new charge now with this indictment. I kind of feel obligated to ask you this question, even though it feels a lot of like rinse and repeat, right? And the question is, what does this mean for his GOP competitors? Does it mean anything at all? I mean, one thing it means is that they're all going to be asked about Donald Trump when they're on the campaign trail, which I presume they would prefer not to talk about.
Right.
But is this sort of a chipping away at him? I don't know how they feel in Iowa, the voters there.
So a political opening, Anne-Marie, which this could be, is only real if you take it. And for this campaign, in all of its time, so far, most Republicans haven't taken the opening that is the indictment of the frontrunner. Under any normal set of circumstances, that would be a wide opening for people to say, hey, wait a minute, the frontrunner's been indicted. We should look at that. That's serious business. No. All they will say is it's a distraction, and they will certainly not say it's disqualifying. Well, there's a huge distance between distraction. Lots of things in life are distracting, but very few things in life, and particularly political life, are disqualifying. And nobody, or very few, Asa Hutchinson will say it, Chris Christie will say it, Will Hurd will say it, but they're all trailing far behind. None of those who are closest to the former president will say these charges or anything around them are disqualifying. Now, what happened yesterday does create some new openings for Republicans should they want to take them. What are they? Well, former President Trump said he had great security at Mar-a-Lago and all the documents were secure and he had every reason to have them. Well, if so, why, as this indictment lays out, did you try to get your staff at your own private club to, A, move them? We've already established that in the previous indictment, and now obstruct things possibly, and that's the allegation, by deleting some surveillance information about that. If you had every right to them and everything was so secure, why are you trying to delete things on your surveillance system? That's an opening. Republicans could ask that question out loud simply by quoting the words of the former president, not taking anything necessarily from Jack Smith, just saying, here's what you said, former President Trump, and this is apparently what you did. Why would you do that? That's an opening, but it's only real if they take it.
So then it sort of brings me then, when I talk about rinse and repeat, it brings me to the former president's reaction and response. And we've kind of seen the same thing from him, though I'm not sure how he responded to this latest charge. He certainly kind of got ahead of the narrative when it came to the special counsel Jack Smith's investigation. You know, he went on Truth Social. He talked about the letter, the target letter he received. He talked about his lawyers meeting. You know, his whole thing is, witch hunt, let me get ahead of the narrative and control it. Is this what the base wants to hear, or is it exhausting?
It's probably both, but right now it is what the base, meaning the Republican Party base, wants to hear and is right now inclined to be supportive of. And I say right now because we don't know how long that inclination to be supportive of the former president will persist. And that will be affected to a very substantial amount by how much other Republicans actually take this opening and criticize the former president about this. And maybe not the underlying charges, but just say to Iowa caucus voters and primary voters in New Hampshire and South Carolina, do we really want as Republicans to live in a world where the front runner early next year could be facing not one, but 2, 3, or possibly 4 trials and the prospect of jail or heavy civil penalties in many of them? Is that what we want around our entire party going forward? Is that the best foot forward? Again, most Republicans challenging the former president haven't made that argument yet, but if they do, the idea that these indictments have empowered the former president, which I know polling data now suggests that, may no longer be true. That's why there is tremendous volatility, I would say, and fluidity in this Republican primary and caucus contest, even though it doesn't look like that now.
I think it's a really good reminder. If we've learned anything about this campaign season, is it goes on for a mighty long time, and things can change dramatically. Major Garrett, thank you very much.